Picture this. The journey ahead starts here together, and together we can build a brighter future. You are listening to Illuminating Hope, a podcast of Hope House. Today, we are thrilled to share our heartwarming story of generosity and holiday spirit. Hope House has a compassionate family from our community that organizes a Secret Santa to bring gifts, joy, and hope to survivors and families impacted by domestic violence. This thoughtful gesture is a beautiful reminder of the kindness that exists around us and how acts of kindness and generosity can make a big difference. To Mark and Mary and their incredible family and everyone who's joined in to support, thank you for making this season brighter for those who need it most. Now let's dive into today's episode to celebrate the power of community and giving. Today I'm so excited. We have Mark and Mary, our Secret Santa for our Hope House community. Mark, Mary, welcome to our podcast. Can you talk a little bit about how did you become the Secret Santa, or what was the conviction behind it?
Well, thank you for having us. And I was trying to remember as you were asking that. We first started out as, it was your idea to start as a Secret Santa. Before we were introduced to Hope House, the layaways that we used to do, and he played some of that. And then you played Secret Santa kind of on the street for people.
The way we started was my daughter Jordan and I had an idea one year. We saw on the news that there was a Secret Santa that was going around the city giving out $100 bills. And growing up, not as privileged as some, I thought, wow, what a great idea. If I ever had the means to do that, I would love to do that. And so it just came to pass one year. We had some additional funds, and I asked my daughter, I said, hey, we should go give out $100 bills. And she said, yeah, that would be amazing. So we started out just at a local store, and we would go in, and when we would see somebody shopping for little kids' toys, we would hand them a $100 bill. The joy that we got from that was absolutely amazing. It's funny, though. It's harder to hand out $100 bills than you might think. We were nervous to give somebody money because we don't know their situation and we didn't know anything about them, and we didn't want to offend anyone. And so my daughter gave out the first one, and just the love that she got from handing that out, it wiped away all of the nervousness that she might have had. It was actually amazing. So she was like, Dad, you have to do the next one. I'm like, okay. And it just went on from there. And then the next year, I think we did that, and then we went in and started paying for several people's layaways that they had on for Christmas. And then from layaways, we did handing out the $100 bills, and then layaways, and then we did some kids' school lunches. And then from there, I thought, I'd really like to do more. And Mary and I talked about it so many times, like, how can we help people in the community that really need a hand up, right? And my mom actually volunteered at Hope House one year. And I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. So this was years before, so I reached out to her and said, hey, what was that place you volunteered for? She said, I can't tell you where it's at. But here's a phone number.
She's a real volunteer.
Yes. And so I'm thinking, I have no clue where this place is. I had this phone number, got a hold of Ilene, and Ilene was like, come on down. And I think, to be quite honest, the first year we were all nervous coming into a place we didn't know and didn't know how things were going to work. Didn't matter. It was absolutely amazing, and that's what started for us.
So, Ilene, what was that like getting that phone call?
Excited. I was excited. You heard about that on the news, and it always kind of seems like somebody else, a little fairy tale. Mm-hmm. And when I got the call, I said, well, yeah, come on over. Let's do that. I can tell you, after they left, I was jumping up and down. I was so excited. I was just elated by the expression from the clients. And you also give to the children, too. So it was just a fun, heartwarming experience. And then when they called and they wanted to come back the next year, I said, yeah.
I need to jump around again.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get that appointment on the books. So what exactly then do you do for the kids in shelter and the survivors that we serve?
Well, we decide a certain amount of money, and we try to find out from Ilene how many clients you guys have there, along with how many kids, and then just divide that money up between the adults and the children. Do the envelopes for each, so at least, when they have something to open, and even the little kids there, when they open those and to see their faces, to see all of them, we get so much more out of it than anything we're doing for any of them.
So you put names on the envelopes or first names?
Yes.
Or
Did we put the first?
No, we don't put names. We just have adults and children. And so we coordinate with Ilene beforehand and know how many are in the residence. And we bring a few extra just because we may have missed somebody or they may be out or whatever the case may be. Then we come in and we go downstairs and we don't make a huge to-do about it. It's just come on in, we have something and we want to talk to you guys about. And it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing.
Yes.
And the other piece of this is that they've brought their children along and their children's significant others along over the years when everyone can make it. And one was even from out of town in Denver, Colorado. That's right. Just to have a part of that experience. When they walk through those doors of shelter, and we don't tell the residents what's going on, and then when they hear what's going on, you can all see that they kind of have this disbelief of what?
Right, they kind of do.
Right, and I can remember a little fella opening up his, and he had $100 bill.
Oh my goodness!
In his little envelope, it's like, I got $1. You can hear excitement.
Or some.
Or more. Yeah. But just the excitement of that, and they include their family, which I think is the other part, which is very heartwarming.
We both agree it's so important for our kids to be involved because you want your kids to grow up and to give back because all have been blessed with so much, and they walk away from the experience just with smiles on their face. It's just such a good feeling for being able to give back.
I was going to say, and it's something you did early on with your daughter, too. So for her to see how that has progressed and be a part of that, I think that's got to be a nice...
What's funny about that is I started with Jordan, who's our youngest daughter, and then our other kids saw that happening, and they're like, I want to do this. I don't necessarily want to do the same thing, but I want to do something. So they've all, actually, every single one of them have been down with us over the Christmas season at Hope House. The takeaway is every one of them have cried as we're leaving. Just absolutely touched by the love that they get back to a T. Every single one of them is, we've gotten more out of this than they've gotten, and we want to do this again. It's funny, Jordan took to Denver with her the tradition, and when we went to see her one time, she said, hey, Dad, we have a big homeless population here. I want to go down to McDonald's and get a bunch of breakfast stuff and walk up and down the 16th Street Mall there and hand out breakfast to the homeless. I'm like, Jordan, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So she took the tradition with her and made it her own in her own city. But just the fact that she saw giving back as important and then started doing that just herself was pretty heartwarming.
I'm curious because I've seen, you see this on TV, and often it seems like the recipients don't know what to say or don't necessarily, they think you're up to something, they think it's not true, it's not real. What's that been like? Have you encountered that, and then how did you deal with that?
Eileen gathers everybody into the one room. They all do have a look of why am I here and who are these strange people standing here? And got a little bit of concern. We do hand out the envelopes. And they open it. The shock on their face is just can't believe it. They're like, what is this? And maybe did I do to deserve this? But I think for Mark and I, we both said that I think this is maybe a group of people, women and children, that a lot of people don't think about at Christmas time. And obviously, we want to make sure that they know that they're not forgotten and people care about them.
I think another point, too, it just makes me tear up, is the unconditional love. And I don't think that they've experienced that. For you to share that with them is a beautiful thing.
That's another thing. When we do get to meet them and they open their envelope, times there's a lot of waterworks and kids are just looking up at Mom like, why are you crying, Mom? Because they maybe don't understand. And of course, then I'm just a blubbering mess because they're just to see how touched they are. And
I don't know if you've ever heard this stat before, but the average survivor will come into a domestic violence organization seeking safety, seeking shelter, seeking resources with a $10 bill. And that's the average amount of money. So if you think about somebody coming in with 1 to 6, 7, who knows how many children, it's Christmas time and I've got $10. So
that's exactly why we started it. Exactly why. Because I didn't know the stat, but I know that my feeling was that they come with the clothes on their back and the children under their arms and they need a place to exhale. For us, that's home and with our family, and for them, that's at Hope House with their family. It made sense. That just made sense for us to do. do. And getting back to your comment about the unconditional love, I'm sure that some of them have never experienced that, but they give it back really well.
Yes.
Don't they?
Really well.
Yes.
And that for us is so overwhelming because we don't expect that.
No.
We don't think about it. We just think, hey, we're going to try and do some good in the world. The good that they do and give back to us tenfold. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Most of the time when you meet a survivor, no matter what their journey's been, it seems like that they are the most caring and genuine people that you can meet that just happen to have a traumatic experience, no fault of their own. And then their children, of course, have that secondhand experience and sometimes, unfortunately, firsthand experience. When we see people who are making their kids have FOMO, fear of missing out, and spreading the joy, it just warms my heart so much. And the social responsibility, it's a wonderful thing to give, but social responsibility is a societal act of responsibility that we all share. What you guys are doing, I'm just overwhelmed. I think it's a wonderful thing.
One of the things that I think about when we talk about or think about the clients that we work with, and those specifically who are coming into shelter, they're coming into shelter at the holidays. It's so hard for people to try to make life normal for their kids and try it for themselves, and you have so many traditions and you have so many things that families do around the holidays, and those all get disrupted because of the violence and having to leave their home and come into the shelter with us. So our hope and our goal is that they can have their traditions, that we can help them to have the traditions that they had, or if they don't want anything to do, they create new ones. Like, what do you want to do as you start this new one? By you coming in and giving them these gifts, you really are helping them to be able to do that. They can get the gifts that we have available and the generosity of our donors to bring in and stock our store so that people can shop and get things for their kids. But shelter's never easy. Shelter's never an easy time. But it's so hard at the holidays. And that's what I think. Unconditional love, but the spreading that joy. But you are truly helping them to either continue with what feels right to them and feels good to them, or to start their own and new ones. And you're really giving them that leg up to be able to do that. I don't know if you can quantify what that means to the clients that we work with, and sometimes it's hard for us to really quantify what we do and like the impact. I think that you can't possibly know the impact that you're having on that person's life at that moment. So I think just say thank you.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes we do get some stories back after they open the envelopes.
Sometimes, almost every time.
Yeah, that's true. Almost every time, and we're just always amazed by some of the stories that they tell us. One of the young gals that were there, I actually cry if I think about this. She was there by herself, and she'd opened her envelope and just immediately burst out crying, and I was like, I hope she's okay, because I just was such a sudden reaction. And I asked her, I said, are you okay? And she goes, you have no idea what this has meant to me. She had a young child, and she said she was unable to get her son's ashes back, but with the money that she had been given, she was able to do that.
Wow.
The needs, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is so unbelievable, and hearing some of their stories and how the money is helping them.
Listen to MaryAnne say quantify, and I was thinking of this story too, so I'm glad you shared it, because I was hoping you were going to share that, because that was really impactful, not only for this woman, but for everybody around, honestly, that witnessed it, you, me, was actually, we saw what hope looked like right then and there.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
what we got to see, is
Absolutely.
what hope looked like. And I truly walked away and went up in the other building after you guys left, and was just bawling myself, because I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I work here, okay, but then I actually got to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just came when it needed to come, and that was the exact amount she needed. Who knew she needed that in order to get her baby's ashes?
That's what was so crazy to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, you should have your son's ashes.
Right.
Such something so traumatic, and
Right, yeah.
I was so
You
happy
gave her hope.
that
Right.
that we're able to do that.
When you have a burden like that and something that you have such a conviction about, and then somebody comes along and shares that burden with you, then you can take care of what you need to take care of. That's a huge thing. That's such a huge thing. I would have been a mess had I seen her. I would have just been a
We
mess.
were.
Question.
We were.
Even me.
Yes.
It also shows that we never know what people are experiencing.
Never.
That's
You
true.
know,
Yeah.
and that I think as society, we often judge and we make assumptions, and we're like, oh, you did this, or you did this, or why aren't you should be doing this, and not really ever knowing what is happening in that person's world. Because never in your wildest dreams would you have thought or even known to think that that's what was going on with that individual.
Yeah, that's something that I've told my kids since they were little is don't walk by somebody, stop and have a conversation. You never know what you're going to find out about someone. Some of the most interesting conversations I've had are people when I'm sitting waiting for a train in a big city, or online waiting for a cab, or in an airport just sitting, hearing stories and hearing people's lives. And like you said, you never know what people are going through. Everybody's going through something at every period of time in their life. Everyone has something going on. To hear other people's stories and to hear some fascinating things that they've done in their lives or some trials that they've been through, it's just, I think it helps us build character, and I think it helps society to be able to have a conversation with somebody they don't know and be able to release that. To me, that's super important. And I know all the kids, they tell me to this day, Dad, I talked to so-and-so and we were just doing this and it was so awesome. Here's their story. And then we get to talk about their story and the lessons that we learned from those. And for us, it helps to shape not only who we are, but how we interact as a society.
Yeah, and developing empathy for others, looking outside of yourself. I think that's really important.
Super important.
It's that curiosity piece. I think curiosity is a beautiful thing. And I always tell my kids, instead of judging somebody, why don't you just be curious? Because everyone has a story.
Right.
Everyone has a story. What happens Christmas Day or maybe the day after with survivors, it's been an important topic to talk about. Maybe a couple things that have happened that you've gotten calls from police and needed gifts immediately.
So we always are very fortunate to have donors who provide items for our holiday store. And so all of our clients that have been in our services within the last year are able to shop for their children and family for the holidays through our store, all free, which is wonderful. We typically have leftovers. And so we put out to the police departments and say, hey, if you come across a family, some kids that are in need of items, let us know and we'll help you take some items and take it to them. And we've had a couple incidents, one where unfortunately the abusive person set the toys on fire, the Christmas presents on fire.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, Christmas Day. As the officers are working this, they call and say, can we get some stuff? Here's the story. And we're like, absolutely. So we're able to meet them, let them pick out from what we had left, and they were able to take this to these kids. They're displaced because not only were their presents a house, the presents were inside the house and the house caught on fire. So they're now displaced from their home, but then these officers are able to show up with these items, which kind of give there's a little bit of that glimmer of hope still left.
Right.
There's still something there. So we also offer that out to the officers that are working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, if they run across
what a gift to be able to be able to step up. And for me, the kids they're the ones that had nothing to do with anything.
Right.
But to be able to step up like that and provide Christmas to some little ones, that's amazing. I love stories like that.
Yeah, we're very lucky and very blessed to have that as an opportunity to pass on.
Right.
It's our Hope House community, and we couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's our responsibility as an agency that we have these things that come to us, donors entrust us with. Their hard-earned dollars, their hard-earned items, and people are in need, and I don't think you just have to come through our doors. I think we also know we can't take care of everybody. That's not possible. Right. But to be able to help in those situations, I think, and especially since we had enough, and to be able to do that, it's our responsibility to do that. I wanted to just maybe touch on and just share is that often our clients, part of being a survivor is around self-esteem and how one thinks about themselves, and that's often really destroyed in a domestic violence relationship. That's through the words that are said to them, through the actions that happen. And so we see people coming into us, and I think especially in shelter, that really are at their lowest in terms of how they feel about themselves. And I think their self-worth, how they view themselves as being worthy or not worthy. And I think, one of the things that we say is our job and what we do is to try to help them find themselves again, to reclaim who they are, to reclaim their voices, and to reclaim just that esteem of I belong and it's okay that I am here taking up space, because often it's like I shouldn't. I'm going to shrink into the smallest thing I can possibly shrink into because I don't deserve to take up any more space. Again, I'm going to go back to a complete stranger family coming in and saying to them, you are worthy. It's okay that you are taking up that space. Claim your space. And to be able to say, I see you. So many times our clients don't feel seen. They aren't heard. They aren't seen by people around them, by their abuser, by often the system can often sometimes feel like they're just unknown numbers in that. So I think you can't, again, underestimate the value of being able to see that someone sees you and someone hears you and says, you're okay and I am okay with you and I'm glad to have this space with you.
That's a good point to make, because we do think about that in talking and speaking with some of these women, that you could just tell by the look on their faces and some of their reactions, they do kind of shrink in, and we do see some of them just kind of stand in the back of the room, and you could tell that a lot of them have that look of it like they're nervous and maybe afraid to approach us, and I never want anybody to feel that way, and we try to go and give everybody hugs, and to me that's so meaningful. I was thinking of another gal that was this last Christmas that didn't speak any English. She was a Spanish-speaking woman, and she opened her envelope and she was just bawling and crying, and she just came up and gave me a hug, and that just was so touching to me, because
a language you both could understand.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
exactly. It was just, I'm so thankful that I was able to touch her heart.
I don't know if you've ever thought about this piece. I'm sure you probably have. But a lot of the women, as MaryAnne was saying, not only worth, but they are financially and economically abused. They don't have any control of their finances, even if they made or were the breadwinner and made the money. And so what you do is you give them that power back.
Right.
You empower them to do whatever they want with this. There is no strings, no conditions. That is power.
That's super important to me. One of the things that Mary said is we want the clients to know that people are out here cheering for them, right? We're out here, we think about them, we know that they're having a tough time. We want them to know that it doesn't always have to be tough, and there are people out here cheering for them. And so we didn't want to do a gift card or something of that nature that locks them into, now I got to go here, or now I have to do this. We want to empower the women and the children too. Another thing that's super important to me is that the children have money to do for their parents, right? Because when you come into that, I grew up with just my mom and I. One of the fondest memories I have was running down the street to a garage sale and buying my mom some shoes that didn't fit her.
She did not care, I
I
promise
was
you.
super excited to buy these shoes for her. They were high heels and she was going to go on a date. So I bought these shoes for her and I was super excited, and I gave them to her and they didn't fit her, but she wore them out of the house anyway, just knowing that I was watching her walk out of the house in these shoes. So for me, it was super important that the kids could do for their parents as well, because their self-esteem is also something that I'm sure takes a hit, and I'm sure it's hard for them to understand. But if they're doing something nice for their mom, I'm sure that mom is doing something nice for them. It gives them the ability to say, yeah, I did that. Just stand a little taller.
Right.
And that to me it was very important.
It's probably a feeling they've never had before.
Right.
You know? So you are opening up to this whole new experience of life can be different.
Right.
And I
Right.
like the way this
Yeah.
feels.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
I always kind of wonder what the kids think when they get this money. I mean, because I imagine a lot of them have never had the opportunity to have any money, and I've never talked to any of the kids to see what they think. They probably, a lot of them don't understand, but we do notice their expressions and how happy they are that they're included in receiving something too. I was trying to think while we're sitting here some of the stories of some of the women that were there, and I was thinking of one, and my daughter reminded me how she was touched by one of the gals that were there. There was a gal who had, she said, 4 or 5 kids there, and that's a lot. After she opened the envelope, she walked near the room and kind of broke down, and one of the staff members grabbed us and said she would like to talk to us, and she just expressed her heart, saying, you know, I have money saved for bills, but she goes, now I have hope. I'm not heartbroken because I can give something for my kids this year, and just very touched by, they have so many issues going on, but you know what, this time of year, what's important to them is making sure their kids have a good Christmas. I'm just admired by their strength and everything going on, and how much they're wanting to give back to their kids.
Yeah, they're very selfless, the mothers.
Yeah.
I remember that story.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think it's awesome. Jordan brought that to our attention. This is the one that lives in Denver. Probably called her mom and had this conversation. But they remember, our kids remember this, so I know that the kids in shelter remember these things too. But just the fact that everybody's able to do a little something for the people they love, I'm sure, I feel like, and I hope, that brings some sense of normalcy. Like, hey, it is Christmas. Hey, we get to enjoy Christmas. Hey, we can do things for each other, and we're in this situation, but we can, like you said before, we can follow our traditions and or build new traditions. And I think that's so important as kids grow up, that they have those traditions too. We have Donut Sunday.
Yeah.
That all my kids grew up with, and they now do Donut Sundays in every city that they live in. So, you know, I think it's important for kids to be able to fall back on those traditions as they grow up, and then they have families, and then they bring their kids up, and they have these traditions that they did with their moms and carry those on. So that to me is super important, and I feel like that starts with normalcy around the Christmas time. And if you have some of that normalcy, you get to live out your traditions or build new ones, and then that can carry far into the future for the moms and the children.
Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that we did not ask about?
Something I've been thinking about the last couple of days, and I talked to Mark, we are only able to reach out to a small set of families, when we're able to come, and we want to expand it somehow, and how we can touch more families and maybe bring more joy to more families around that time. I was talking to a gal yesterday at a nail salon, and she was asking about Hope House. I was trying to talk to her a little bit about it, and she goes, that is so wonderful. She goes, the owner here, she loves those kind of stories and being able to give back. You should tell her, we'll put a sign up, accept donations, and I don't know all the logistics about that, but we feel like we'd like to give back to more families. And I don't
We have
know
a
how
whole
that, how that all
outreach
works.
program.
Yes.
Be careful what you ask
Be
for.
careful what you ask for.
Exactly. You just planted that seed with the nail shop and what that can mean and where that can grow. And and again, talking about community responsibility and where we are in the world and our place, that's what that does. And it continues to grow. And not only does that continue to grow as support, but also continues to grow as somebody maybe in the situation that hears about it and thinks, oh wait, there are other options. So it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
Just to admire the both of you and can't thank you enough for walking into our lives. So
Absolutely. We're the ones that are blessed, and we're so thankful for, gosh, you guys do so much good work.
I want to make sure we call out everybody that works at the shelter. We have not met one person that we didn't just absolutely love. Seriously, everybody there is selfless. Everybody there works for the betterment of their clients and the kids, and we couldn't be prouder walking into a place knowing that those types of people are there. It's amazing. I'm skeptical sometimes of some charities, and where does the money go? Or do the people really get the help that they say they're giving? I have no questions about that when I walk into Hope House. And that's why we want to continue to broaden what we do and try and make this a little bit more each year. And I think we started out the first year, we were doing $100 for the moms and $50 for the kids. And we've grown every year, and we've done more and more and more. And I think this year we want to do more. And next year we want to do more.
Yeah, it gets our minds going. I've been thinking about that. I said, how can we reach more people? And
It's a total addiction.
It
Giving
really
is
is.
a
It
total
obviously
addiction.
gets so
It
much.
really is.
We can certainly talk about ways that could happen, and whether you want it to be at the holiday time or doing something different and at a different time of the year. But I do want to say, I really appreciate you acknowledging the staff. I have said that. I've been here for a very long time, and I've said I've always been blessed with a wonderful group of people to work with who truly do care about the clients that we work with and really do want to see people succeed and to be able to live their lives free of abuse. And we are very blessed, so thank you for acknowledging them. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
they're all angels.
Yes, absolutely.
I can't thank you enough for coming on today. I've learned so much about you two and what you do and what you do for the organization that I love.
it means the world and the community support that you guys champion and bring life back to some folks that are broken and wondering what next for them. You kind of give them their what next, so appreciate that. So
Absolutely. Happy.
Thank
It's our
you so
pleasure
much.
for sure. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for listening to Illuminating Hope, a podcast of Hope House. A special thank you to our newest recurring donor, Justin, in memory of William and Nancy. Learn how you can support Hope House and domestic violence survivors by visiting hopehouse.net.